You'll probably see that it's being live streamed. I'm just waiting for it to fully load, and then I'll share it, and then we'll start. Here we are. All right, let's see. And I believe we should be live on Facebook too. Okay, well, welcome to A Day of Light and Love. I'm really excited about this segment. I'm Jeannie Fritsch, and I'm hosting this event, which is a complete collaboration with 18 this year, 18 contributors. And every message is powerful and meant to reach the person who needs to hear it, someone who might need some uplifting or even heart healing. They might be experiencing death of a relationship, death of a family member, maybe a health challenge, maybe just they're in a location that's very far from their family during this time of year. There's lots of things that can contribute to a sense of loneliness. And like I said earlier in a previous segment, I even remember previous to my divorce decades ago, I can remember being lonely and there were lots of people around. And even that sense of slight alienation or isolation, all of those things seem to come up during this time of year. We notice them. And so this event was created specifically to help feed the hearts and the souls of those who need to be fed today. And so right now we're going to welcome Scherr. I was saying before you came on to some of the people who are on with us through the Zoom link, I'm not really sure if I've ever met anyone or come to know anyone who more fully embodies forgiveness than you. And with that, I know that's a big statement, but I've met a lot of people, and I do a lot of forgiveness work in my mentoring practice and that. But I am going to say that the first time I heard your story, and then I caught your immediate response, that was such an embodiment of forgiveness and grace, a true embodiment. And so if you wouldn't mind just giving the people who may not know you just a little bit of who you are and how you came to be where you are today. It's a small order.
Well, just to keep it, to capsulize that, my husband and daughter and I had been living in a spiritual community for many years. At a holistic retreat center in Virginia. And they went off to India with a group and to introduce modern high-tech meditation to Mumbai. And so about 25 of them were there. And that was the year in 2008 when terrorists stormed in and attacked. And they were in the dining room and everyone dove under the tables, and they did not survive that attack. Now, I was in Florida visiting family for Thanksgiving, and it was an inner voice that I heard, and it just came in so clearly. Forgive them, they know not what they do. And I simply said, yes. Because I was in a state of kind of shock and disbelief, but it was like, it felt right. That was the ray of light. It allowed some peace to come in and the possibility of moving forward, but it wasn't anything I was really thinking about. And I'm not saying that I knew what it meant in that circumstance to forgive. What is there to forgive, really? It just happened. It happened. So what is there to forgive? What does that mean? And so that actually became my spiritual path and practice after that. And it can't come from the mind. It's just, oh, forgiveness. What? And it's an exploration of the heart. And I think the mind can direct us there, and the mind can reflect. The mind certainly is good at judgment. And then on the other opposite, well, how would you then go from judgment to love, or at least acceptance? You would have to bring in the ingredient of forgiveness in there. And so forgiveness allows opening for love to come in, and it keeps our hearts from being crowded with various thorns, we could say, of unforgiveness. And today being a day of light and love, the first thing that occurred to me when you said, what would your theme be? I thought, well, in order to experience light and love, we got to clear the passageways there in order to receive that. And unforgiveness would cloud or obstruct that ability to fully receive and embrace and extend it to others, because that would go both ways. So forgiveness would be a tool to increase the light, return us to love. And it is love that increases light and moves light forward in our lives, fills us with light, and we become illuminated, and that's how we know ourselves. So I think people who happen to be alone on a day like this, wow, that is truly a gift. Because I was talking to my brother earlier this morning, and he's alone on Christmas. And he said, yeah, he lit candles. He said he was spending a lot of time reflecting and those kinds of things. And because it's Christmas, there's a special kind of energy in the air, because all previous Christmases are contained in us, and whatever that brings up. So there's nostalgia, there's memories and all of that, but he's reflecting. It also happens to be the end of a year.
Yes.
And in about a week, we will be moving into a new year. So here we are at a pivotal point. How do we want to create that year? And reflecting on yes, there are many things we loved about this year, maybe, and what did bring us joy, love, and light, but what didn't, because we don't want to take that in, and what angered us, and even maybe enraged us or disappointed us, saddened us about others, or maybe what we said, did, that could have or shouldn't. We have regrets. So there's a whole ball of stuff there that is an amazing time. So even if you're not alone here, to be able to take a little time in the next few days, even 20 minutes, just to have that reflection, settle into the self and see what comes up. Just what's the first thing that you think of? A person, a face, a feeling of, why did I do that? And just let that be, let it all come out to the surface. And then, okay, what does it mean to forgive in that case? Well, forgive, allow yourself to give. How can you be accepting of a situation? How can you simply accept and forgive a person's inability to extend love to you, maybe? Something that they were contracted. So we're just forgiving their inability to give love. It doesn't change anything really, except it just, we can then say, okay, I'm going to clear out that from my heart. And I'm sorry you couldn't give love, but I'm just going to clear that away and accept that you couldn't, and have compassion for you. And I feel that compassion is an important ingredient to enable us to forgive. So in the case of a terrorist, who is a terrorist? A young man who got brainwashed, who was probably drugged up and lost. To be able to be in a restaurant with an AK-47 and go around shooting everyone under a table, one of whom was a 13-year-old girl. How disconnected would that person have to be to do that? I mean, extremely disconnected from humanity, which meant they're disconnected from their own selves. And then they've got to live with, well, in this case, none of them did live. One of them lived for 4 years after that, actually. And then he was executed. But whoa, that is inconceivable. Most of us would never be in that situation. So we have varying degrees. Terrorism exists in many forms. And anybody who is part of a family knows that we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly all mixed in our own families. That's human. It's humanity, no matter how pretty it all looks on the outside. There's other stuff going on behind the scenes that only we know about. But you sit down with anybody and there's a whole closet full of stuff there from the history to the present. And so there's a lot to forgive. And otherwise, we're just going to carry around a lot of stuff that makes us feel sad, disappointed, and wishing things were other than they actually are. So I just think it's to be authentic and real and actually to open the heart. It has to be a process that happens at that level. We can use the mind to direct it and focus it to say, okay, all right, some of that makes sense. I can get with that. I don't know though if I can, but all right. And it just starts with, okay, I'm willing to, because I would like the result of the forgiveness. So even though they don't deserve to be forgiven, no way, no how. I will never forgive that. So when we say that, we mean we just don't want to let someone off the hook. We feel they need to be held accountable, and what they did is unforgivable. But we're not talking about what they did. Yes, you could say that was a terrible thing to do, terrible, whatever it was. But now I've got to live with me. And I'm not saying it wasn't terrible, but I'm saying that I'm going to clear all of that out of my heart. You're going to have to live with that. You deal with that. And now I'm going to move forward in my life. I won't be held hostage to it. Because that's what, in my case, I didn't want to be held hostage for the rest of my life, hating the terrorists, finding who is to blame. How did this happen? How could it have been prevented? Shaking my fists. That could go on forever, because there are a lot of things that are still not answered about that particular event, and people who are still enraged about it. And I don't blame them. All that needs to come out, and all the questions need to still be there. And it's good to find all the answers eventually and hold those accountable who need to be held accountable to the full extent of the law. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're going to be letting a murderer, a rapist, or a terrorist off the hook. No way. But yet, what are we going to live with? We're the ones that have to get up in the morning, go about our day. And here we are at a time where the light increases, the love increases, because there's opportunities for giving and receiving more. It gets amplified at Christmas time. So all of that's amplified. But how are we going to feel it if our hearts are all contracted?
Yes.
And we're still resenting something this one said to me last time at Christmas,
Absolutely.
So I remember that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Sometimes it's the holidays that are the history lesson, like, oh, remember when Uncle so-and-so or your brother John or whatever it is. I want to ask you this, though, if you could just entertain this question. I know for myself, having done a lot of forgiveness work, which I found incredibly not just freeing, but liberating. There was a certain point where I realized that I had to forgive myself for many things.
Oh.
and those things I don't know that there was much that was done to me as much as me forgiving myself for,
yeah,
oh, I mean, it's
absolutely. And I think this is the ideal time to make that the primary focus, actually, is self-forgiveness, and to contemplate that, because we let ourselves down in various ways. We don't always do what we say we're going to do, or maybe we withhold a communication we wish we would have had, or wish we wouldn't have said, either way. And it's good just to acknowledge that and think, how we do it differently next time. But
yes,
I think we hold ourselves to a high standard, and sometimes we don't always get it right. We procrastinate, we put things off, and then something happens, and it might just be as mundane as, not not putting the chemicals in the hot tub in a timely manner, and then the water gets cloudy. That happened to me, and I never had a hot tub before. So I thought, I was really saying, how stupid. Why didn't you just,
yes,
oh my God,
yes,
you're
it
giving
just
yourself
seems
quite a
so,
hard
it
time.
just seems so logical. Like, how did I miss that?
Yeah, but in the moving process and Christmas and this and that, okay, well,
Yes,
it's not the end of the world. We'll
no,
handle it later next week. So I just had to let it go. Am I going to ruin my time in Miami because I'm still saying, how could you be so stupid?
absolutely. Well, that what I have found in my own life is that the more forgiveness work that I did, and I actually continue to do, because I think that forgiveness is literally an ongoing process.
Oh,
It's
it's a
just,
it's a
it's just,
meditation practice.
it's easy. It's easier as time goes on because you've received the benefits of it. So
That's
it's
right.
good, but it is an ongoing practice. But what it does is it releases the essence of grace.
That's right. Beautiful. Yes. How lovely. Yes.
Don't you think? Like it's
Absolutely.
just like being able to grant yourself grace comes easier. You don't sit there and whip yourself with the wet spaghetti noodle as long. Like you can
Right.
go, you know what? It's okay.
And once we've done that for ourselves, it naturally, we feel a compassion towards others, which increases
Oh,
our
yes.
understanding and connection and acceptance of the
Ooh.
imperfections and flaws of
Oh,
human beings.
yes. That's
And
so true.
and we can, and it connects us more, and there's more opportunities to give and receive love on a practical basis. And light is that pure positive energy that, it's hard to explain in words. We just call it light. But what is light actually? Well, what is light? It's life. It's that highest spectrum of highest vibration, of life energy, actually, that lifts us up. It illuminates the darkness, but there will always be the darkness.
Yes.
So, but if there's darkness, it also means there's light.
Yes.
So, and that's an interesting contemplation, how that polarity showed up in our lives in this year in various ways, whether directly or what we viewed in the world, but we see a play there of that, and that's always ongoing. And I think to always bring, if we have the choice, forgiveness is a choice to choose maybe the light. I'm going to bring my attention here. I know that's there, but I'm going to bring my attention over here. That would help me. The light would illuminate, ways for me to handle this in a better way over here. So I need to still deal with that. I can't ignore it or avoid it. I'm not going
Yes.
to bypass it. And then I can transmute some of that darkness into light. You never really know. But the main thing is just to keep the focus on that. And what choices are we making? What outcomes do we want? Well, then what do I need to do? And often forgiveness just clears the way to create better choices. It's a subtle thing, but it's all interconnected.
It is definitely. So for to wrap up, for someone who's on or viewing this, and they perhaps crave that transmutation, that opening of the removing of the obstructions. They crave that, but it just feels overwhelming. Any steps for beginning the process? And
I think just to, first of all, take some quiet time, settle into your own self, your own presence, and bring your attention to your heart. And you could transmute loneliness into simply aloneness, which then becomes oneness, which is the greatest connection to, it's a very full, connection to the universe as a whole. It's just too big to really conceive of. But the seed of that is within the heart itself. So just bringing attention to the heart, resting in it for a moment, and let it share its wisdom. Just be with it as it is, just in that simplicity, without trying to manipulate or do anything. Just being is where different revelations or miracles could occur, or just simply quiet. Quietness itself, silence. In the silence of the heart is peace.
That's wonderful. So good. Thank you. Thank you for what you offered us here today. It's amazing. Really great.
So just simplify, and people, it doesn't have to be an effort.
Yeah, I think there's an intentionality to it, but it doesn't have to be arduous.
That's right. You can set the intention for that and then let go and settle.
Yes.
And trust.
Yes, trust. Love that
Trust.
word. That's come up like in every single conversation.
Yeah, just trust in the process, trust in yourself, and trust in the heart, the wisdom of the heart. And then forgiveness connects us more deeply to that wisdom. So that's the key. That's worth just being willing to do that so that we can get connected to it. And from there, we will increase the light and the love in our lives and in this world.
Thank you. It's like a benediction. Thank you so much, Kia. And
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you and your family.
You too, and blessings to all.
Thank you.